Okay, so in this recording this is going to be my final review. I'm going to go over, basically I went through all my folders in our team Proforce, and I found everything that I worked on personally, that I recall at least. There might be other stuff inside of it. And I've listed it all in this notepad here, and I'm going to go over them. And I'll try to be concise so that the video isn't too long, but at the same time give them their due diligence, I suppose. So first thing I want to review on this list outside of levels is the shooter AI. Well, it's not the shooter AI, all the AI, but melee first. So melee AI, pretty simple. Enemy AI, well, not too simple, it took forever to make, but basically it just has a little fight director that it needs. You can have multiple melee AI. The fight director exists so that basically you can have multiple enemy AI and they don't all attack you at once, so it's fair for the player. I haven't put a nav mesh, I believe. So yeah, let's try that. Here we go. And then the AI comes at you, and he might just punch you. If there are multiple, each individual one will punch you less in favor of the other one. But yeah, and then when you punch it, right now it's not doing damage. Not entirely sure why, because it does that in my other levels. It does damage in the other levels, but he's not recoiling. Yeah, here he is doing damage. Or not doing damage, but he does deal damage. I just turned off one of his arms so that I can't do damage. Because it was doing too much damage too quickly earlier. But yeah, here's the melee AI. Let's get rid of these two. Shooter AI. So for this example, let's get like a little wall going. Basically, the shooter AI is pretty simple. It will follow you, and then it will shoot you. If you go out of the way, it'll follow you to your last known location. If it sees you, again, it'll shoot you. But if it doesn't see you, it won't shoot you. But yeah. Oh yeah. And in case you're wondering why I just realized the reason my other melee character wasn't taking damage is because it only takes damage from my normal third-person character, not my third-person character with Force. I created a separate character that has the Force because the Force can also pick up all dynamic objects, which causes a lot of problems for my teammates, as you can imagine. So I only use it in one level where there are no dynamic objects available for you to pick up, so it doesn't look bad. The next AI we have is our let's go over the turret first. The turret PP, pretty simple turret. It'll just follow you around and shoot at you. Yeah. And it has a pretty slow rotation rate, so it's not too unfair. And it shoots those little balls at you. It doesn't do damage. I tried to put little spear collisions around the balls so that they do damage on overlap, but that didn't work. And when I set the turret to do damage in its own script, it would do damage from anywhere on the map, so it was doing a bit of an issue. And this is another free model I found online. And we have our strong enemy as well, our boss. Multiple attacks. He has a medium range attack, with a little trident that he slams into the ground. It has a pretty slow recharge rate. It's just, once again, for fairness. And if you're too far away, he'll throw javelins at you. That's his ranged attack. And it plays a little decal so that the player has a little warning for launching it. And he has a third attack, which is a spinning attack, as you can see. They spawn, and they spin you away. When they spin. Yeah. Those are his 3 attacks. Not much else to it other than that. In the boss arena, you'll see a little widget that appears when you fight him, and if you do enough damage to him, he'll die. And which sets off a open level, which opens the next level in the game. So yeah. So the next thing we gotta go over is the player attack and the enemy deaths. So for that, we gotta get rid of this player character and pull in our normal third-person character and possess him. Oh, not bad. Let's get this. So let's get also our AI. Not a shooter AI, our melee AI. But yeah, if I punch him, you can see he recoils, he recoils, he recoils, he recoils. That's his death animation, in case you were wondering. It's a bit creepy, and that's sort of like good for this kind of tone, I think. It's also unintentional because originally it does have a death animation, but for some reason it wouldn't work on that enemy AI, even though it's the same as the UE4 mannequin. Not 100% sure why, because if you go into my attack, you have the dying animation. It should play fine. But there seems to be an issue with how it translates onto this AI, but that I wasn't able to fix. So yeah, this is the only AI that you can use melee attacks on. I was originally going to go further with melee, but since none of my other team members were using the combat system, I decided it was just a waste of time and took it away from my level design. So yeah, that's punching and death, and the enemy also has the same punching animations that deal damage. So yeah, that's that. Next thing we have is conveyor belts. So let's go into mechanics, open up our conveyor belts. Yeah, they're pretty self-explanatory. You go on it, it'll move. The speed, the color of the arrows, the speed of the arrows separate from the speed of the actual belt. All of these are adjustable. As I mentioned in my walkthrough of level 1, you could see that the speed there was very high and the color was different from this. Next we have the crouching system. Not really much to say. I was initially going to have lots of crouching and like areas you have to go through, crouching and stealth areas and all that. Didn't work out. Never bothered to remove this crouching feature in case we ever used like vents or like small areas in any of our levels. Next thing we have is a destructible mesh. Well, it's not really something to talk about. It's just a simple destructible that I was gonna make for Cosmo, but ended up not being the one to make that, because Cosmo didn't need what I made. It's just a simple destructible. Yeah, as you can see, it's kind of falling apart the more I jump on it. But yeah. Next thing we have is are jump pads that I made. Rescalable, recolorable, all that. The launch velocity, or sorry, the launch, sort of the amount it launches you, can be changed at any time. Plays a little sound effect, which is off tone, I'm aware, but I just wanted something fun. As you can see, there's also a hard landing animation. That sort of messes with the thing, the bounce pad. So like whenever you hard land, you have to jump on it again. But yeah, that's sort of the only issue with the jump pad. It's not really an issue because in not any cases, I believe, do we have jump pads, successive jump pads like that in any of our levels. Another thing we have is ladders. Pretty simple. I'm saying pretty simple for everything. Yeah, it is pretty simple. It's just animated this time. Last time, it's not very well animated because obviously I can't have like a perfectly handle for handle animated ladder. But I tried. That's the best I can say. You climb up. If you press E specifically when you're near a ladder, play that little animation, and you go over it if there was somebody going over. Next thing we have is our moving platforms. Not something to really go too deep into. Moving platforms, if I can ever find it. Yeah, they're just moving platforms. I mean, oh yeah, I guess I have to set something. You just have to change its location. Like let's change this. That's a Y, so let's change its Y location to be like 130 and make it over the course of like 4 seconds. And you can see that it's moving. And we go back and forth continuously. So yeah. Then we also have vaulting, wall running, and double jumping. Vaulting because this was initially going to be more of a parkour heavy game, and I just left it in because, as I said before, other people might use it. But yeah, I believe it's shift to or control, is it? This might be a bit too thick. Turn it down, lower it a bit, and try the Alt. There we go. As you can see, it works perfectly. It can also be used to sort of ledge climb over ledges, and you like jump near a ledge, but you aren't exactly on top of it. That's unintentional. I did not intend for that, but it just happens to be something you can do, which is useful. There's also wall running, and wall running can be prevented if you add a cannot run actor tag. Tags. You add actor tag and put cannot run. It has to be actor tag, not a component tag. One of my teammates got confused with that as well. Oh, 2 minutes gone again. And if you add that cannot run tag, you cannot run on it, as you can see. You can slide on it, that's a different mechanic, but you can't run. And double jumping, which is what it is, which is double jumping. Fun mechanic for a platformer. But yeah. Next we have portals, which are very inconsistent in their functionality, so I'll just sort of skip over that. And portal BP, scale it up, and then go to select the exit reference, move it like here or something. If I go here, it takes me to this exit reference. yeah, that's the portal. The only problem with that is that you can't have multiple in a level for some reason. It doesn't work, even though they are separate blueprints. Next thing we have is possession. And another thing that I never really fleshed out because nobody was making use of it. Basically, you just approach the character. Okay, I didn't remember the possession button. Let's check out possession. So it's tab. So if you go up to this guy in his box collision, press tab, you possess him. Only problem with it is that it's not animated. Because I never animated it, I never created a separate blueprint for the possessees. Because they don't need one. Because no one uses them. So yeah, you have the possessee there. And the little widget you saw at the top is just my old health bar system that I don't use anymore. So yeah, possession, pushable objects is what it sounds, just an object you can push. So let's just scale it up a bit. Yeah, you can move it. As you can see, it is moving. I think you can tell based on the shadow. But you can see through it, sort of. That's kind of the main problem. Your head clips through it. I never fix it once again because I was initially going to do a puzzle, sort of like a button. You have to push this over a button to get it to work, but never really did that. Never really made use of it, so I never fixed the issues. Force pull and push I do use during combat, so that works perfectly. But yeah, well, I don't have my force sensitive character right now. I guess I should just keep him out here. Blueprints, the prison character with force. Delete this one. And possess this one. So possess it, you press E, press R, and it throws. And then you can always pick it up again. And as you can see, it drains your mana on the bottom left, which has a slow recharge rate. So you shouldn't be doing it too much. Yeah. That's the simple force pull push. It does damage as well to the boss. Rotating objects, that's literally the simplest thing. You just add a rotating movement component to an object, and it rotates. Like, where is it? Here we go. This is the fans that I use for part 3. Just simulate it for now. Well, no, I guess not. But yeah, simple rotation with pain causers around it. You have a door, simple door system. I don't think I need to go over that. It's just a door, you press E, it opens. Slow, slippery surfaces. Yeah, it's stretched on the X and Y. This is the mud floor, which is the slow floor, and this is the ice floor. Again, this is a thing that nobody uses, surprisingly, because it's a pretty useful mechanic, I think, for what do you call it? For a platforming game, sorry. Jeez. I need to find another way for this. Yeah. Once again, as I mentioned, since nobody uses this system, it doesn't work for all directions. I guess it does work for all directions. It doesn't work for diagonal. Oh, no, it works. Oh, I guess it does work. Don't recall fixing it. Oh, there we go. Now it's not working. And then you re-enter it and it works again. See, it's very inconsistent. Again, nobody used it, so. And this is our slippery. I don't know if you can really tell when you're not the one playing, but it is slipping you around a bit harder to control, and you can actually change the friction so that it slips and slides more or less, all that. Swimming, I'll just showcase this because in one of my teammates' levels, so that I don't have to set up a whole ass physics volume and all that. Yeah, there's a bit of a problem where you have to collide before it works, as you can see. Swimming works fine. This little animation. It's a different animation if we're going backwards, but it's a bit clippy. Sideways animations, diagonal. You can't see it the most clearly because it's in first person, and I'm pretty sure these swimming animations were designed for third person. But yeah, this is not my level, by the way. This is where I'm showcasing it because the physics volume is already there. Now that we have that, let's pull out some AI and take down a normal takedown. In my previous videos where they fully are, not fully functional, but pretty functional, as yeah, those videos have it much clearer because ever since I imported my project into Perforce, some key bindings that I haven't used for a while don't really fully function. So yeah, in-game UI is the next subject though, and that's pretty simple. It's just the in-game UI. Took me a little bit to kind of brainstorm it because I wanted it to be a bit more convoluted than what it is. Not convoluted, but like interesting. And that's just what I settled with because I couldn't think of anything that would be thematically appropriate. We also have zip lines, which are another mechanic that I created. They're very simple. I'll just do a horizontal thing for now. Yeah. You might notice the little sound effect. I tried to add a sound effect and the getting on works, but the sliding, I haven't found a way to cut it once you get to the end. I'm still working on that. You also have multi-directional movement and turning in place, which is, you know, the whole quality of life feature. Like, you have different animations for going up left, up right, sideways, backwards, which is a little clippy. But not clippy in third person. I think this is just clippy because of the camera. And you have backwards left, backwards right, all of everything. You also have turning in place. You can see a little foot movement as you turn in place. So yeah, some quality of life stuff. Now moving on to more stylistic stuff and not like mechanical changes. We also have our Volumetric Fog, a little particle system I created. You really see it. Well, seems to not be appearing so well right now, so let's go to where I actually use it. In the main level, okay, so yeah, here is the Volumetric Fallout system, all colored up based off these spotlights, and I believe these are two different systems, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They're just fog, like volume fog, so that the player feels like they're really, I don't know, high, surrounded by colors, all that. We also have televisions, which, once again, instead of actually pulling it out, I'll just showcase it simply here, because there's not much to say about them. Let's lower the camera speed here. But yeah, we just played this little weird psychedelic video I found online. They do have a sound component, but I turned that off in favor of the level sound. As you can see, there is a media sound component. But yeah, they do play the video when you are in the game. Although it's maybe not the most noticeable, as you can see. Yeah, those errors are just for simulated. You also have reactive floors, which I suppose I will go into the test arena to showcase that. So if I go into my stylus, visuals, reactive floor, and I take this instance and I put it here, that's what I mean by reactive floor. It basically follows you around. The reaction is actually a sphere around the player character, but it just looks like this, like lines, because of the material. We also have pulsing materials and flashing materials. Which, yeah, I suppose I put them in the same thing. Yeah, pulsing materials, flashing materials. Pulsing here. So you can see there's a bit of a fall off. Or, yeah, see that. The pulse. And then in flashing, it's just flashing. I'm sure it's pretty clear what the difference is. Yeah. In post-processing, yeah, I'll just go through the levels again. So we have our main level. Which uses a darkness post-process. We have the 2, which uses a inverted color post-process. Part 3, which uses an outlining post-process. And part 4, which is I tried to do like a Firewatch sort of fog color effect, and it might work with more foliage-y areas, but I feel like it's okay, and it kind of makes these interiors a bit weirder. We have the boss arena, where, yeah, I used the same post-process. And part 5, where I basically just increased the brightness, not the post-process, just the skylight, like extremely. Yeah, I also created a few Niagara particle systems over the course of this game's development. Let's go over that real quick. Niagara, we have our tornado, which you saw in my earlier levels. We have the tentacle, which is the eye tentacle. This crazy particle system that I just made, it's not really supposed to be anything other than just creepy particles. We have fish, which is just the last particle system you just saw, but the mesh is changed. I created that for one of my group mates because he has an underwater level that I showed you earlier, actually. Yeah, basic nebula. This one wasn't so great. I created it myself. I'm not sure why it looks so weird right now, because we don't have any post-processing, I don't believe. Oh, we do actually. So, reset the default. And clear that. Huh, weird. But yeah, it usually looks different than that. We have lasers, which you saw in my main level, so I won't go over that again. What else is there? There's also lightning. Yeah, I mean, lightning is lightning. You can change the color, as with any particle system, you can change any aspect of it, even the size of the lightning and all that. Using nebula fish, random tentacle, tornado, lightning. I think we kind of went over the black hole. If we didn't, here's the black hole. It can be colored differently, scaled, all that. It just looks cool, and it works for my boss arena. Tonally, I think. We also have mirror materials, which if you put a planar reflection in front of them, they are very good mirrors. At the This is just a basic mirror material. If you add a planar reflection in front of it, yeah, this one, then it'll change it. I'm not going to do it now because it's way too system performance heavy, but that's how the mirrors in my maze work. We also have the dynamic eye, which just follows the player character around. And as you can see, the pupil dilates depending on your distance from it. We have the different camera systems that I honestly at this point won't go too far into detail over because it's pretty late into the video. Basically it's simply a we go to dynamic camera. We have a dolly zoom effect, which you probably could see if you went into my level walkthrough, and it's the dolly zoom effect from Vertigo essentially. I have an on-rail camera that follows the player from one fixed location on a fixed rail as they move forward, and I also have another camera, an on-wall camera that sort of just follows the player as they move around in the interior. Yeah, like in Resident Evil, in case you need a frame of reference for that. We also have the music manager. This is something that doesn't really perfectly work anymore. It worked perfectly before, but now it seems to have glitched out. But basically what it would allow us to do is to have box collisions where you play certain music or audio tracks, and then plays a certain other audio track, and then mute it and turns the volume back up depending on whether you are in a box collision or outside of one and all that. So it was very useful. We also have dynamic footstep sounds. Voice lines are just, I attached a voice line to when I do damage to an enemy so that they have a little scream. Not a scream, but a sound. You probably heard you might have heard the gunshots, but if you go into my level walkthrough, there is gunshot sounds from the enemy AI shooter, and the dynamic footstep sounds, which I'll go over very quickly. Style, quality of life, footsteps, materials. Let's do this real quick. And then assign these different materials: wood material, glass material, and concrete material. So if I go on to these, they play different sound effects. Yeah, that's because of the animation blueprint will play the sound effects, the footstep sounds, and the physical material assigned to these materials will decide what sound to play in the animation blueprint. So yeah, that's everything reviewed, and yeah, I'm going to close the video.